Hi guys, it's Dereka with Dereka's Designs. We are creating this cute little chicken wreath attachment today, or decor, whatever you want to use it for. But this is the video for the no-sew version. I also posted a video with the sewn version, and you can see the differences and how they look. You don't always have to sew every project. It's just, to me, it looks a little better, looks a little more finished, but really it's what you like, you know, and sewing to me is very easy, where I know it can be a challenge for other people. So I do try to create no-sew versions of my patterns in my wreath attachments and more group. We have a subscription. It is $20 a month, and in that group we make attachments. This is just a little bonus one. This is a small one. This wouldn't be something that I would necessarily put as a main attachment. It's just a little bonus, and we have lots more coming. In February we're doing full leprechauns, the whole body, the hat, the arms, and we're doing bunnies in overalls with fuzzy feet and fuzzy long ears and straw hats. So we have a lot of things coming up in the future. I haven't even looked forward to ahead to March yet, but I do have February's designs done, and the WAAM group, as I call it, they get the patterns, and just like what you guys downloaded, they get all of that stuff in the WAAM group, just like this. And not every pattern we do, not every project we do can be no-sew. So I know there's a lot of people out there that just adamant that they can't sew, they won't sew for whatever reason. But my feelings are, if you can work a cricket or a silhouette, you can definitely sew. It's not any more difficult. And my patterns are hand-drawn like this. There are no, you can't mess it up. Like, even if you, I'm not creating something so complicated that if you miss a notch by 1/4 of an inch, it throws off the whole thing. Nobody's wearing these items. So, you know, it's very easy. I'm not a perfectionist in any way, shape, or form. When I sew things, I don't pin them together. I just sew it. I have done this for so long, and I know that these wreath attachments are basically disposable. People use them for a couple of years on their doors, and then trends change, fashion changes, everything changes, and they throw the wreath away or donate it or whatever. Or maybe it gets all faded, or maybe it gets a bird's nest in it or whatever, but people don't keep wreaths forever. They are not lifetime purchases. And that's the way you want it. You want them to keep coming back to you, though, and purchasing their next wreath for whatever, either a new holiday or just one to replace the old one. So that's why I don't put a lot of work into these patterns and into these attachments. I mean, I don't feel like it's a lot. Like, I know you can go online to some of the big stores, and they have patterns that they look like stuffed animals. I mean, those patterns are very complicated. My patterns are not complicated. They are very much just 2 pieces of fabric put together. I don't have a million different pieces that have to go to make one little item. I try to make it as easy as possible, because I know that these are not family heirlooms. You're not handing these down, and they're going to end up in a dump in a couple of years. So, you know, why make them so important, you know, and so put so much work into it if it's not something you want people to get new wreaths every couple of years. That's what keeps you in business. So, and if they like your product and they like what you make and then they'll come back to you. So that is why I'm teaching the wreath attachments in the WAAM group, because I feel like there's a lot of people out there who could really benefit from making their own attachments. And everything we're learning in that group has been mostly sewing methods, way to put things together, that sort of thing. But I think they're getting a lot out of it. And I wouldn't be surprised if some of them, even after just 6 weeks, are already starting to think ahead of what attachments they want to make in their own way. I mean, I work on showing them how to make patterns, or how I go through making patterns, how to just any little thing that I feel like, if I'm doing in my daily stuff, because we still have a business, we still make attachments and sell them on my webpage. But I take versions of what we've made, and maybe I will retire that particular piece, and I will teach it in the group. So I don't teach people to make what we are selling currently, because that wouldn't make a lot of sense. Why I wouldn't create competition for myself on an item that I am making for myself to sell. So that is where we still have a business. We still make attachments, but what it's doing, it's allowing me to take a lot of my old patterns that I love, but I don't want to make again, but I can teach the group how to make them, and it brings new life into it. And there's nothing wrong with the older patterns. It's just, I feel like I need to change things up every couple of years. I don't want to keep producing the same thing over and over. So if I'm not making them and selling them, I have no problem with somebody else getting the pattern, making it and selling it, putting their own spin on it, making it how they want to. And, you know, then it becomes their pattern and not mine. You know what I mean? I've got bins of old patterns that I just don't have time to bring back. And sometimes I don't really want to. Sometimes it's more fun to do something new. And so new fabrics, new things, new everything, new trends. It's working out great for everybody. We're all having a good time. Like I said, we're only 6 weeks in, so it's not like we have a ton of stuff going on. Let me get a drink really quick. So this is the video for the no-sew version. There's also a video that was posted for the sewn version. Makes the same exact chicken, but this one is sewn and stuffed, and this one is hot glued, and it's on the foam board. Now the foam board you can get Hobby Lobby, Dollar Tree, Walmart, Target, I'm sure everywhere. Comes in like a 24 by 36 sheet. Just depends on where you get it, what it's going to cost. It's just paper with foam inside, so it's rigid, but if you bend it, it will crease, and the crease never comes out of it. So you kind of have to baby it just a little bit. Cut it with an X-Acto knife. This pattern, let me see if I can get the 2 pages here. The foam board, okay, so you have to put these two together when you cut them out. The foam board is the size of the center, you know, of the 2 halves of eggs there. It's basically an egg shape for the most part. When you cut these out, tape those 2 pieces together before you transfer it onto a piece of, you know, construction paper or cardboard or whatever, because it's really hard to trace around this thin paper. But if you can do like a not contact paper, what am I thinking of? Poster board like paper, something a little bit thicker, and then it's really easy to trace around it, and then you have a solid pattern, and it's not just flimsy paper. But you want to cut all these out. Of course, this piece down here is not needed. I should have put a note on there. I did not. That this is not needed. This base piece down here for the hot glue only piece. So don't bother with this one. If you're not going to sew, you do not need this piece. Also on my patterns, when it says, like here, it says wing yellow ×2 pillowed. What that means is you need 2 wings. And by pillowed, I mean 2 pieces cut the same, because we're going to glue them, stuff a little bit of polyfill in there like a pillow. Okay, so when it says pillowed, that means I want you to cut the 2 pieces together so that they match. If you try to cut individual pieces, like if you try to cut this part of the wing and then this part of the wing, and then later you go to put them together, they're not going to line up perfectly. And you're really going to have to trim some off, a lot more than you would normally. So for me to do pillowed, it means cutting a double layer. And if you're buying the felt sheets, you know, just fold it in half or whatever and cut 2 at a time, so that they match up perfectly, all the little bumps and things. It just makes your life easier than trying to put 2 mismatched pieces together, and then you'll end up cutting off too much and it won't look right, if that makes sense. So that is what I mean on this by pillowed. Most of the stuff, you can just use sheets of felt. They cost $1 or less usually. You can get any colors you want. If you want a regular chicken, like red, you can do this in red. You can do the little feet in orange or black, or I mean, you can just do whatever colors that you want. This just happened to be more Eastery themed. But you don't have to, guys. Like these little eggs are what I got from Hobby Lobby last year. I had in a little bag, and I just cut them in half. I just used a little razor, a little saw that I have, and cut the little styrofoam eggs in half. But if you don't have these exact eggs, use what you have, or you can even like put a sign. If you don't want the eggs, put a sign that says Happy Easter, or you don't have to put anything. Like that 100% is optional to you. I literally just cut these little glittery, sparkly eggs in half, and that's what I'm using, just for fun. Just to give it a little bling. Okay, and the third page on this one has your supply list. The only thing you need to really probably purchase off of the bolt is the white fabric, because you need a pretty big piece. It's way bigger than just a piece of pre-cut felt. Like I think the little felt pieces are 8 by 12. This is much, much bigger. So if you're going to do felt or fleece, it does not matter. You would probably want to get at least a half a yard of it, but you can make 2 or 3 out of it. So, you know, and then you're only using, you know, this much of a sheet of yellow. So you could probably get a whole nother set of feet at least off of this, or wings. These are wings. Same with the orange, you know. So if you bought a half a yard of this, and just a couple of sheets of each of the colors that you wanted to make the wings, the beak, the crown, the feet, you could make 2 or 3 different, you can make them different and sell them. Or you can use them in your wreaths and have multiples. You know, multiples are huge on Etsy. I know a lot of the coaches, you know, they can't stress enough. You got to have more than one in your shop of every wreath that you make. And this is a good way to do that. That way, I mean, it's just at least 2 of every wreath you should be able to make 2 of. If you are, you know, really in business on Etsy. Like if you're just a hobbyer and you just like to make one of everything because you see it online and you're like, oh, I want to make that. So you go out and you buy all the stuff. That's fine too. But if you're trying to make a business, then you really want to focus on having things in your shop. And if you already have a listing created, it saves you so much work and time if you just have it auto renew with another one after it sells. Like you sell one and it just automatically pops up and you don't have to create another listing or anything. It just automatically puts it in your shop as for sale again. And that, I mean, save yourself some time, you know, save yourself some energy. Also, on my little girl, I'm using some eyes that I printed out off of, it was a long time ago, guys. I don't even remember. I have files of things that I use in my attachments, and these eyes were in there. But when I opened the file, they were 6 inches tall. They were big. It was like the whole sheet of paper. So my daughter took them, put them in Photoshop, brought them down to a manageable size so that I could print them out on glossy photo paper and then put resin on them so that they have that little bit of a glassy eye look to it. I am not teaching you guys how to do this. This is, in my WAAM group, I'm showing them slowly how to do this, but I don't want you to run out and buy resin and buy glossy photo paper and do all that stuff unless it's something you know that you're going to do over and over again. It's a lot of cost up front, and if you don't use it, then it's just something else that's going to sit on your shelf forever. And as crafters, you guys all know we have enough stuff sitting on our shelves from things that we started and never did again. We all do. It's just part of being a crafter. Our minds go in every direction. Every time we see something online, we want to make it. We go, we buy it, and maybe we make it or maybe we don't. I don't know. So these little eyes, if you want a good tutorial on how to do this, you can go to Wreath, Lewreath on Etsy. Luz has a tutorial on resin eyes. And she even gives you a file or 2 that you can download and print out on your printer. So I'm not going to create a tutorial on how to do this except for in my private group, because I don't want, I don't want to compete with hers because I know she has one and it's a very good file on how to do this. And I don't know what it costs, but it's on Etsy, and Wreath is her shop name. And she'll show you it. And she may even have more stuff in there too that I don't know about. I just know I've always made my own. We're going to do this, you know. I find the files. I download the eyes. You can purchase them and find what you like and see, you know. Sometimes you can get them for free. It just depends. But Most of the time I purchase them because it's, you know, those are small businesses too. So I try to be mindful of that. Okay. So next thing on the list I want to very quickly go over glue guns. Okay. If you plan to make wreath attachments with hot glue only, you cannot use a $5 glue gun from Walmart. I'm sorry, or $2.99 or whatever the heck those little teeny tiny things are. You cannot. You think about when you use a glue gun that is not very hot, like a low temp glue gun, it basically heats it up just enough that it sits, you know, on the surface like that and turns into a wad of rubber, right? I mean, we've all seen glue gun. You've gotten it on your shirt. After it cools off, you just pick it with your fingernail. It comes right off. Well, that doesn't do. I mean, if it's not going to stick to your shirt, it's not going to stick to your project. So you have to have a high temp glue gun. You have to, if you're going to use fabrics. And what the high temp does is it liquefies. If you've ever used a glue pot, there's a big difference between like 225 temp and 350 temp. Like your glue goes from a gooey mix to liquid and will scorch you and take the skin off of your hand, right? It's really hot if you go too high on your glue pot. So that is what glue guns do as well. This is a detail gun. This I got off Amazon or directly from SureBonder.com when they have sales. I go through 4 of these at least a year because I have them on 16 hours a day. And I don't feel like it's like the heating elements in it don't last forever for me. Now, if you're just using it for a couple hours a day and then you turn it off, it'll probably last you forever. But for me, I go through a lot of them. I have been through 50 glue guns in 5 years. I've tried every brand, every type, and I always go back to SureBonder. You cannot beat their quality. You absolutely cannot. This is the big one that I use. It has the dial where you can put the temperature that you want. It is very much way more than any simple crafter needs, you guys. This gun, it's like $130, $150. Don't run out and buy this thing. Don't run out and buy it unless you use a glue gun it's on 16 hours a day. I use this thing every day of my life, both of them. All day, every day. It's always on. I'm always doing something with my glue guns. This is my livelihood here. These things, these and scissors are my livelihood. You know, I have to have them for my fabrics. So don't run out and spend $150 on a glue gun unless you know it's something you are going to use that much. Put it on a goal. Give yourself a goal. If you sell so many wreath attachments, you can buy a better glue gun. But remember, if you're just using an inexpensive little glue gun, a low temp glue gun, your fabrics are not going to stick together. And over time, they're going to just pop off of your wreath. I mean, it's not going to be good. You may end up with unhappy customers. So whatever glue gun you have right now, make sure it is high temp. This one is just 20 watts, but it's a high temp glue gun. So it comes out very liquidy and very hot. This one is 100 watts or 200. No, this is 220 watts. High temp. Well, you can turn the nozzle wherever you want it, but even at the lowest setting, that's pretty much high temp. It's 220 degrees. It goes up to 400 degrees. SureBonder is the only brand that I will buy anymore. Every other brand is a waste of time. SureBonder, Ryobi, same thing, guys. Same company. Don't think you're buying something different because it's got a pretty green nozzle on it or whatever looks different. SureBonder sells the same exact cordless glue gun that you put the Ryobi batteries in. Only thing is SureBonder doesn't make batteries. So you have to buy the Ryobi battery to put in the SureBonder glue gun. It's the same thing. Same glue gun. Same thing with, this is the same exact glue gun that you can get from Uline for $140 with the dial down here. The Uline one says Uline on the side. It's red. But guys, these companies all make the exact same glue guns and they put whatever name you want on them. Exactly the same. So don't don't think that because you're buying a certain brand or a certain kind that it's any better than any other. They're really, other than the cheapos from the Walmart. I mean, even Gorilla Glue has their own glue guns now. I have not tried one of those yet. That's the only one that I've seen in the stores. I have not tried a Gorilla Glue glue gun. It might be a pretty good one. I don't know. But if you're going to upgrade and improve your glue gun, definitely you can get an amazing Sherbonder glue gun for about 30 bucks. It's hot enough to do fabrics, but some of them even have a high temp, low temp nozzle on it or button on them, so you can swap back and forth. You know, you don't need high temp if you're just putting picks into a wreath, but you need high temp to do the fabrics. So just kind of do a little bit of research on it. Sherbonder even has glue guns that are cordless that plug into your USB. So you could literally plug it into like your laptop if you were somewhere, and the charge through the laptop would heat your glue gun. I mean, they have everything now. So anyway, glue guns must be high temp to do fabrics. But use, these are silicone mats. I use these every single day in my life too. It's a hot glue mat. This is made by Dereka. Dereka is no longer in business, you know that. But I use it. And then I have one that I cut up into little strips. And I call these little pot holders because I will grab things. I'll glue something and then I'll grab it with this. And it just saves from burning my fingers. I call it a little pot holder. But basically it's one of these, and I just cut it up into pieces so that I could use it, small pieces. So definitely worth the money. You can get, Sherbonder has a glue gun, hot glue mat like this that they sell at Hobby Lobby. I don't know if there are any other brands there. I only saw the one from Sherbonder. Like I said, these are from Dereka. You can get these on Amazon. So I'm sure that, well, I don't know. They might be under a different name now. It might not be Dereka anymore since Michaels owns them. I really don't know. I haven't really looked in a long time. But these are invaluable. So especially like when you're gluing something like this and you're putting hot glue in there and you're going to fold it down, you don't want to hold it with your hand because little bits of glue are going to eke out and they'll burn your hand. So you stick this over it and you hold it. It makes life so much easier. I really do use the heck out of these things. So, okay, so let's get going. I know I don't want to rattle on forever, but I wanted to make sure I went over the main basics of doing wreath attachments with hot glue only. Okay. This is the board. And we will, whenever you're making an attachment, the first thing you want to ask yourself, you have all your stuff out here, you have everything cut, everything ready. How are you going to attach it? What are you putting it on? If you're putting it on a wire wreath form, pipe cleaners work great. If you're putting it on a grapevine, you might want your pipe cleaners to be vertical, because think about how the grapevine, you know, the curve of the grapevine, you want your pipe cleaners to be up and down, not side by side. If you're putting it on a Unique in the Creek board, maybe you'll want to draw through the holes, you know, like put this underneath your board, and where you want it on your board, put a pen through the hole or something, and that way when you put your pipe cleaners through it, they're in exactly the same place as the holes on the Unique in the Creek board, so that you can have it. But so we're just going to do pipe cleaners because when I sell something, I just automatically put pipe cleaners in it, and then you guys can adjust it how you need to. But when you're making it for yourself, then you can change things up. So that was hard to see because it's white, but you can see the little pipe cleaners through there, and then it's through here. Now we're going to glue a piece of fabric to this back when we're all done to make it pretty, and we will make sure we glue over this so that these pipe cleaners can't be pulled out, but you don't really need to do that just yet. Sorry. Okay, so that is the board. That's how we prep the board, and that's how we're going to decide, you know, you want to think about all that stuff before you get started. So for these little pieces, and I'm using scrap fabric here, guys. This is nothing. You don't have to go out and buy a bunch of stuff to do wreath attachments. You start out with small, and as you grow, if it's a utility fabric like felt or fleece or something that's a very basic like this white, you might want to go ahead and get a half a yard. You can get 2 or 3 things out of it, or maybe if it's on sale, get a whole yard of it. It never hurts to have a variety of utility fabrics. meaning all the different colors of the felts that you think you might like, all the different, if you like, fleece comes in way more colors than felt. Fleece is a little stretchy though. Fleece can be a little difficult to work with sometimes. So you just have to keep that in mind. But it comes in way cooler colors. Like Joann's must have 100 different colors of fleece and maybe 30 to 40 colors of felt. So you really can hit just about any color you're looking for. But your main fabric for your attachments is probably going to be fleece or felt. And then you accentuate with fun cotton stuff. Then you put all the fun fleece, flannel, cotton, just whatever you can find, because some of the fleece patterns are super cute. If you don't, I mean, if you like those, so, and obviously cotton, anything, and then flannel. Don't ever discount flannel. Flannel comes in a lot of fun designs as well. So when you're at the stores looking for things, you know, kind of, the only thing you really want to stay clear of is sheer fabrics. Anything that, because you can't hot glue, you can't hot glue anything that's really thin. You can see it. It looks ugly. Unless you're going to cover it with something, don't ever get anything sheer. Or that's just really super thin. It's got to be some type of cotton. It's got to be something that has a little bit of fabric to it. So don't ever do anything stretchy either. Try not to get anything like satiny if you can. Satin, when you, I don't even know how to explain satin, but if you have a piece of satin and say you do a squiggle of glue and you put the satin on there, all you're going to see is that squiggle of glue, because all the rest of the satin is going to be, it just looks terrible. Don't do satin. Just for past experiences, stick with the utility fabric. Stick with like muslins, cottons, fleece, you know, that kind of thing. So anyway, for these ones, what we're going to do, I'm just going to use the detail gun because I don't want big, huge globs of glue on these. What I do is hopefully you can see this here. I can zoom in just a smidgen here. Let's see. Okay, let's see, maybe that'll work. Sort of. Nah, really not really that. Sorry guys, I'm still learning the Mevo. You have it lined up and you've pillowed this, so these line up perfectly. Like every little bump and everything is perfect. You put a hand or a finger or something on here, flip half of it over. Then we're not going to glue the bottom because that's where we're going to stuff in some polyfill. So remember, we're making a little pillow. So we're just going to hot glue, let it fall, tap it, and then I usually take a piece of silicone or something. I just want to hold it for a second. I really want that hot glue to get inside of the fabric and not just lay on top and be a little piece of rubber. You want it to meld inside of the fabric. So you really want to put a little bit of pressure on there. So flip it around, fold up the other side, do the same thing. I'm doing it about 1/4 inch from the edge. You don't have to worry so much about where you put it as long as you have something to protect your fingers when you hold it. If you don't have something to protect your fingers and you stick your hand on that, like I got a burn right here last week. I put my hand on something and glue ooped out the bottom and I ended up with a blister right here on my hand. It happens. But that's why they make these things to protect yourself. It's not just your fingertips. Sometimes you have to protect your whole hand. Remember, this is a whole different, if you haven't made wreath attachments or if you haven't used a glue gun to put felt together, it's a whole new thing. So give yourself some time. Give yourself, like, don't be in a rush. I'm doing this quickly because I want to get through this video because I know, you know, it'll be boring for you guys to watch me do all of this. But we're just, oops. This is scrap fabric, so it's got a crease in it and it's kind of pulled up there. So I'm doing the little wings. And we want to let these cool completely. Like give them at least a good 5 minutes before you start trying to stuff polyfill in them. Like set these two to the side and do the rest. Don't try to stuff it while it's still slightly warm. Now this one is so small, it's the little beak. I'm going to do the whole thing at once because it makes no sense. It's so little. I'm just going to take the glue gun and we're just going to go right along 1/4 inch from the edge like that. I'm going to take the little top and put it on there. It's so little, it would be hard to do it half and half. So put your silicone on there and give it a good press. make sure you're pushing that hot glue into the fabrics and set it aside so that it can cool, and work on the others. So this one is bigger, so we're going to hold this part with the hand, fold it over, do a little line. I always tap it to make sure it's laying down where I want it to, and then I'll use the silicone. I do have bigger pieces of silicone too, I just can't find them. It would cover this whole thing, so. But for this, we're just gonna do this really quickly. Same thing here, just kind of give it a little, I just tap it, and I'm doing that just to make sure that the edges are lining up, and then I hold it down. You need to protect your fingers, you need to protect yourself. I mean, don't be in a rush. Okay, so now we're gonna do the little feet, make sure it's lined up properly. Hold it down, hold it up, put a little line in there, silicone over it, or whatever. I mean, you can just put another piece of fabric over, just whatever to protect your fingers. Like, if you don't have one of these silicone mats, that's fine, but just find something to put over it. So a piece of cardboard even would be fine. You don't burn yourself. Okay, so let those cool. And there's this one. Just kind of rushing. I'm going to go ahead and do the whole thing here like that. I'm going to show you, if you got a big piece, you could just press down the whole thing. So these silicone mats really do work well. Okay, that's that one. And we have two more. I just have these little bitty, what are these things called? I forgot again. I always forget. And these are so small. Again, I'm just going to do the whole thing. A little tiny line of glue around the edge. And then set this on there. Pat it. Hold it. And then this one. So we have all of our little pieces glued now. And they're off to the side, just cooling off. I know people always say they let the hot glue dry. Technically, it doesn't dry, right? It just cools off. In my mind, I'm like, oh, it doesn't dry. So, all right, so you take your foam board now, and we're gonna go ahead and get the front cover on. Take a piece of yours. And now in the pattern, it tells you if you're cutting this, the size of the pattern, then your fabric needs to be about 1 inch bigger all the way around. Now it doesn't have to be perfect because you're folding it over, so nobody's going to see the back side, and you'll probably end up trimming some of it off anyway. But you would take your big block of fabric, set this on it, and then just cut about 1 inch to 1.5 inches bigger. You can always trim it off. So, I mean, fabric is inexpensive, so don't worry about wasting it. It's okay. It's not a big deal. So you take, get all the furzes off of there. Okay, so on this one, we're going to leave this bottom open, and that is what we're going to stuff. So the bottom part, the last thing we're going to add to this is we're going to stuff it, and then we'll add everything to it. So I guess that's. But we're going to glue all the way around, but we're going to leave this open, stuff it, and then we'll fold this over and glue it at the very last. Okay, that's what I was trying to say. So for this, I use the big glue gun because you want a nice, good, big glob. So I'm putting some at the end up there. You always start with one, and you slowly start pulling around the circle. And you're going to have little bumps. So just slowly start pulling around. But see how it has, can you see? It's not perfectly flat. There's these little bumpy bumps on there. And you can trim those off. But it makes it a nice, smooth, flat on the front, and that's what you want. If it was a straight line, then you would just fold it over, it'd be a perfect straight line. But because it's a curve, you gotta kind of do a little bit at a time. So put in a couple of inches of glue, put one down, down, down. I'm not pulling it really tight, but I am pulling it so that it's not going to leave any ridges or bumps on the outside piece. So back here, it doesn't matter if it's all bumpy and rigid like that. See how it's all bumpy? That's what happens when you're going around a curve. Could you cut little triangles out and make it? Yeah, you can, but who would want to do that? So just do it this way. It's so much easier. You know, when you're sewing around a curve, you cut little triangles into it. But when you're just hot gluing like this, no. So go all the way around. This is why it doesn't, I tell you to use a little bit extra, because not a single bit of glue has popped out here and got in my fingers while I did that. So don't be afraid to waste just a little bit of fabric, you know. And then just slowly pull it where it's tight all the way around. And then your front is nice and flat. And see, there are no little ridges around any of the sides or anything. It's perfectly flat all the way around. But the back is all lumpy bumpy. So now, all right, where did I do with my scissors? Oh, there. What I do is I lightly go back here. And not all of it can be trimmed. It does not have to be pretty, guys. This is going to be covered. But I try to get off as much of this excess as I can. And I just put my scissors underneath it, like that. That way, there's not as much fabric under it when you go to glue the backing on. And I just go back and I will just take off a little, anything that's just, looks to me like it's going to be a big bump under the backing. Just give it a little snip, a little trim. It's not going to be perfect, but it's okay. It's going to be covered. Okay, so now we take some polyfill, if I can find mine. Oh, goodness. I have the box down here. Okay, you're going to use your hand, not quite that much, and you're just going to slowly put it up in there. I use a pusher. It's just a dowel. An old dowel. You guys, you can get these anywhere. You can get them at Hobby Lobby, Walmart, whatever. In the wood section, it's just a dowel. And I literally, I don't know if you can see it, it's literally just broken. I just broke it. It's not cut or, you know, made real pretty or anything. I just broke it to make it the length that I could use. And then you're going to take the dowel or whatever. If your hand fits up in there really well, then that's fine too. But if it's a little tight, you know, then use the stick. And she's a chunky chicken. She's got curves. So make sure you fill her up. All right, that's Jasper screaming. If you guys don't know me or if you have not watched my videos before, I do have parrots. They've been very good so far, and now Jasper wants to throw a little fit. So if you hear little strange noises throughout my videos and I completely ignore them, it's because I'm so used to it, I don't even pay attention. But that is Jasper screaming in the background. And every once in a while you could hear some sound effects because I have a bird that likes to do sound effects. You know, telephones and just you name it. She does everything. So you just hear a lot of funny little things in my house. There's always little noises. So there we go. We have a nice fluffy, fat, I don't know, it kind of looks like a toilet seat, doesn't it? I just realized it. Now what you would do, okay, so guys, one of the main things you need to know about polyfill and hot glue is that hot glue will not stick to polyfill. If you have any polyfill out here and you pull this, it's not going to stick. So you need to tuck all of the polyfill inside of that hole and then pull the fabric over. It will not, it doesn't matter if it's just one tiny little shred of polyfill, it's going to mess up your project because it's not going to stick. So pull it, I just pulled it all over, and then I'll take my little gun and I'll just make sure all the edges are glued down. And then she's good. So you have the basic body is ready to add all your little things to. Now, we know, there's more polyfill. Hold on, get some more. It's got a big box under here. You do not have to add polyfill to your little pieces. I personally do because I think it looks cute, but you're not adding a lot. You're not overstuffing it like this one. Because if you really try to stuff this little thing, you're going to pop the hot glue. The hot glue and fabric, they will hold pretty well, but not under pressure. So what I do is I just take a little tiny, that's even too big, not even cotton ball size, and I just shove one little cotton ball size in each of these little toes, or this isn't its foot, but you know what I'm saying. One little cotton ball in each one, but I don't put anything up here. Like this is totally flat up here, but you can see that there's cotton or polyfill in each one of the little toes. It's just for dimension, it's just for look. 100% up to you. If you don't want to put polyfill in yours, you just want them flat, totally fine. If you were doing a duck, the duck foot would probably look better flat because duck feet are much flatter. This obviously is the weirdest chicken foot ever, but you know what? We use our creative artistic license when we're creating things. It doesn't always have to look exactly like the animal. You know, just people get a little hung up, you know, when things aren't exactly as they are on the animal. And it's like, well, this is, you know, creative license, artistic license. That's what we call it, where it's our interpretation, and it's okay if it's not 100% replica of whatever you're making. You just interpret it. And all I'm doing here, there were places where things didn't line up 100%. So I'm just giving a little snip to make sure things look all, you know, perfect and round, and there aren't any little problems. You can tell by looking at them if they need a little trim, like if your fabric's slid a little bit and they're not 100% lining up, just give it a little trim. I mean, you can sit there and stress over it all day and trim and trim and trim, but you don't have to. I just do it a little bit. I don't want it to be really obvious. So I'm going to put a little tiny polyfill in each one of these little fingers and toes kind of thing. And it's 100% just for aesthetics. It's not necessary if you don't choose to do that. That's the one great thing about making your own wreath attachments, is you can decide what is going to look like what. You're not just using my interpretation. You can use your own interpretation. Like I said, you don't have to use these colors. This chicken does not have to be for Easter. It can be just farmhouse. If you want a cute little chicken with a silly little farmhouse sign that's black and white and red, and then use those colors. Do whatever the heck you want. By making your own attachments, you really allow yourself. I know as wreath makers, you're all trained to buy things that coordinate. So you pick a sign that you really love, and then you buy the coordinating ribbon and blah, blah, you know, and on and on. Everything is made to coordinate. Well, when you make your own attachments, you make everything the way you want it. Like you start out with your attachment the way you want it, and then you coordinate with your own vision, not somebody else's vision, your own vision, your own color template. Like say you have farmhouse ribbon, but it is purple and lime green. Well, throw some purple and lime green in this bird, you know? I mean, just, you can use your own interpretation, your own vision. Like I said, you don't have to rely on a store-bought interpretation all the time. And I'm just, again, just trimming this. These little things are kind of hard to, they don't line up very easily. So just giving them a little snip all the way around so that they look, there's Jasper again, especially the beak. I'm going to stuff the beak as well. I'm using my little finger here, but you can use something small. I have a really small dowel. Again, you get this little dowels everywhere, guys. Don't think you have to go to Lowe's or Home Depot and have, you know, no, you go to Walmart. In their wood section, in the craft section, they have a tray with different size dowels if you want one. Don't think you have to go and, you know, buy expensive things, just cheapo things. Okay, so you want the beak to be kind of full so that it looks beak-like. So I did stuff that one a little more than the others. And what I do, it's just because it's easier for me when I'm making, because I know these are going to be basically one piece. You could just glue these on and then glue the beak on top of that. But, I mean, it's up to you. But for me, all right, he's not going to stop screaming. I like to, there's my little one again, make it, I go ahead and make, if anything is touching like this, I go ahead and make it. Jasper, what you need, bud? Okay, I'm going to put it on silicone. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to put glue just around the very edge of this orange fleece. See, now you couldn't do that with cotton. If you were using a cotton, you wouldn't be able to put glue on the edge like that. That's why flannel and fleece work so well when doing this, because you almost get, you can put glue on each side or on the edges. And it just gives you a little more depth and dimension to your projects. So I'm just holding this little guy on there. So I've just made my little beak and my little, what the heck are these called? I have it written down over here because I never remember. Like, it's one of those weird words. Wattle. It's a wattle. These are wattles. The one on the head and the one under the beak, they're called wattles. I guess. I had to look it up. So now this is one piece. It's got the beak and the little wattles attached to it. So I'm going to let that cool over there. Okay. Now, this is the back. We're going to add our pieces. So we have the little crown here. And you don't have to do this, but I like to add just a thin line to close this edge. Kind of keeps things from sliding around. So now this is sealed shut. You know it's going to go at the top of your chicken. So you just have to look to see where your exact top is. And then what I do is I just put a line of glue, 2 or 3 lines of glue across the top. And then I put it on there and then just hold it down. You can use the silicone thing, just hold it in place. And see, you can already, I mean, it's right at the top of the chicken. It looks super cute already. And the little bit of stuffing in there just gave it a little bit of dimension. So, like I said, it's just 100% optional, but I like to do it. Okay. So now for the arms, or the wings, again, I'm just going to put a tiny bit of glue in each opening and then pinch it closed just so that the pieces don't shift around too much. Okay, so I use my cutting mat kind of as my guide. I put the straight line at the very edge of my cutting mat, and then I'll go up however many inches to where I feel like my wings should be. Like, I feel like my wings should be right there, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 inches. And then this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 inches. And that way they're kind of even on both sides. And you can get a pen and you can mark it. So I don't have a pen. Here's one. My 6-inch mark, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is right there. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 right there. And then I'm going to put my wing directly on the center, or center of my wing on that line. I'm not going to go lower. I'm not going to go higher. I'm going to go direct center. Okay, I moved it. I'm like, those don't look even because I moved it when I was measuring it. So this actually needs to be down about 1/4 inch. Okay, that makes more sense. So again, glue. You can use your big glue gun on this, but my little one's right here and it's handy. So directly on the center of that line that I made, or the center of the wing on it, just eyeball it. I mean, guys, you don't have to be 100% precise with this kind of thing. Just eyeball it. I mean, it can't be that bad, you know? So you can already tell there's the little wings sticking out, super cute. You can use your silicone. Like this one has a little bit of glue coming out, so I'm going to hold it with this. Just give it a few good squeezes. so that it will adhere well. Okay, and then we have feetsies at the bottom. I'm gonna glue the opening shut. Just pinch it. Glue the opening shut. Pinch it. And then you can decide where you want your feet. Do you want them all the way to the edges, or do you want them in about 1/4 of an inch or 1/2 an inch? I feel like that's pretty good. And guys, once again, I'm not measuring it. If you spend all your time being that precise, you're gonna drive yourself crazy. So I'm about 1/4 inch from the edge, and I'm good with that. And then I'll do this one. And I'm gonna go about the same distance, right there. Nobody is gonna flip this over and say, oh my gosh, this one is 1/4 inch and this one is 1/2 an inch. Nobody's gonna care because it's so stinking cute. It's not gonna be a big deal. So see how I flipped it over and now I'm holding it down? You can do that as well. That way the glue is underneath and it's not touching you. So after you glue it, instead of holding it down like this, you can flip it and just hold it like this against the table. If the hot glue scares you, then do that. Okay, so now we have, kind of the basics of our little bird here. Now on this one that I did earlier, I hot glued my wings so that they folded in a little bit. And I hot glued my feet so that they sat up like this. Instead of, you can see the difference between the wings flopping outward and then the feet flopping downward. It holds everything in a little tighter. I kind of like it just a little bit better. So I think we can go back to where we were here. So, oops, wrong one. I swapped the wrong one. So what I do with that, and this is, well, where are they? Uh-oh, where's my other one? Lord, it's like somebody came over and redid my desk for me. I feel like things that I just used a few minutes ago are gone. Where did they go? All right, there's one. Okay, found them. These are office clips. You guys know, these things they're strong. They'll hold anything. I've tried chip clips. I've tried the cheap Dollar Tree clips. I've tried everything. Nothing holds stronger or strong enough for me than these silly little things. So what I would do right here on the very top of this foot, oops, I would take it like that and I'll fold it all the way over. I've only glued the one part, but I fold it all the way over so I can get the clip on. And then on this one, just do, kind of hard for me to see it, just do the very top of the foot, put it like that, fold it over, put the chip clip on it to hold it. And I'll just leave that to cool for just a minute. And I'll do the same thing to these as soon as we're done. And for me, I like that the feet aren't just dangling. They're kind of sitting forward just a little bit. And all I did was glue just a little bit on there. Okay, so while those are cooling, we can put our little beak and mouth on. And I like to line up the beak and the mouth with the crown up here, because all of this is the face basically. Like the wings and the feet don't really matter when you're looking at the beak. The beak and the crown though kind of need to go, and you make sure your beak is directly in the center of your crown. So right there. So I'm going to, again, oops, I'm going to push in the polyfill because it started to poke out again. I'm going to get my hot glue in here, go around the orange part again, and I'm also going to go around the wattles, the pink part. And with the wattles, I'm going to go down into the wattle just a little bit, like maybe 1/2 an inch. I'm not going all the way to the end, but I want to make sure the wattles stay down as well. And then you just eyeball it and you hold it down there. And just hold it, and you just hold it. Okay, so he's kind of pointing to the sky there, but you can see the little beak and the wattles are on there. Get really close, I don't know. There. Okay, so now I can take these off, and you can see now the feet are facing forward. You know, it just gives, to me, it gives it a kind of a cuter look. Totally optional though. Now these eyes, these resin eyes, they're printed on glossy photo paper. So you don't have to do anything else other than just glue them on, which is why I love them. So you just find where you want them. If you like the eyes to be spread out a little bit, do that. If you want the eyes to be super close in, do that. Put them wherever you want them. I like them right there. So I'm going to take one of them and use your nozzle of your glue gun. Squeeze out some glue, then use your nozzle to kind of spread it out on the back of the paper. That way you don't have any globs under the eyes. And then just touch it on there. It's so just put a ring of glue and then don't squeeze anymore. Just use the nozzle to kind of spread it out just a little bit. And doing this upside down, but I think it's kind of, I'm going to use my silicone thing. I'm going to press it on there real quick. Not real hard, but just enough. So my eyes are on there. You can see. I mean, see how they have that glare on them? That's the resin. It has like makes a glass glossy over. Okay, so they're a little crooked, but I did it upside down, so I'm not too worried about it. A little bit crooked. But you know what? It's a handmade item, so I don't really care about those little tiny things. Like my eyes are a little bit over to this side, you know, just a little bit. You know, it's okay. I'm not going to stress over it. It's all right. It's a handmade item. And when people look at these in your wreaths and things, they're not going to stress over it either, because they're going to know it's handmade. I mean, if you want to sit and draw all this stuff out and measure and make it in the exact spot, that's up to you, but I'm not doing all that. So, okay, so now we're going to put a little bit of glue on the edge of the wings here, and I'm going to fold it over so that these can kind of go inside. Fold it over here. Kind of go inside, and we're going to leave those on there for a minute. And you can see the clip things, they didn't leave any marks on the fabric, so you don't even know that I used a clip. I mean, the polyfill poofs back out when you take it off, and all you have to do, just rub it a little bit, and the line from the clippy things goes right away. No problem at all. All right, so we're going to let those little wings cool. What we're going to do is we're going to flip her over. Okay, so this part, I just threw an egg. Hold on. This part isn't complicated, but it does take a little more time. And this is just, we're just putting the back on. Now, if you're going to put this in your wreath and you don't care what the back of it looks like, you don't have to do this step. If you're going to sell an item, then you want the back to look pretty, because, you know, it looks unfinished if you don't put something back here. But if you're just automatically going to stick this on a Unique in the Creek board, you don't need a back on it. Nobody's going to look behind it, right? So, okay, so I'm going to take the clips off because I'm pretty sure that is okay. We'll just leave it like that. We're going to take our back piece and we're going to, the pipe cleaners will get in the way, but we will deal with those in a minute. Put your back piece on, which is cut way bigger. It's obviously way bigger. And what I do is I feel where my pipe cleaner is. And I cut a little hole there. I cut a little hole there. Right at the base where the pipe cleaner meets the paper. And then you lift it up. You take white, it's kind of hard to see on white, but you take your pipe cleaner and you pull it through the hole that you just created. You can make a little dot if you want to. It's like I said, it's a little harder to see on white. It's easier to see on the others. But sometimes if you just stretch the fabric, the holes pop open and you can see them very easily. That one and that one. So we haven't glued anything down yet. All we've done so far is pull the pipe cleaners through it. So now we lay it out, pull the pipe cleaner through it like that. Make sure everything is, there's no gaps. Make sure everything's laying nice and flat. Okay? So now here comes the part that you just have to, you don't have to go fast, but you're because you have so much overhang here, you're physically not going to be touching any hot glue. So you really want to, do half of this bird and then do the other half. You can't really do little pieces because then you won't be able to get glue up. So I fold all the way back to where the pipe cleaners are. I want to make sure I get glue around those pipe cleaners. Remember, we want to make sure they don't pull through. And then I'm going to go all the way along the edge. All the way to the, now try not to get it where it oops over the side. And then I just do a giant zigzag in the middle. Okay, and then fold it over. And then place it down. And if you've cut your fabric big enough, you do not have to worry about it touching your hands, right? Because there should be a pretty good overhang there. And just, you don't have to put a lot of pressure on this, but just make sure you get, especially around where the bumps are, like where the feet are, like this. You want to get on each side of the little bumps and under the wings over here. Okay? And put your pipe cleaners down. Fold this all the way back again. I'm going through glue sticks like crazy. Hold on, one more. Okay, so same thing. You want to make sure you get more glue around the pipe cleaners because you want that to be secure. And then you're just going to do a nice glob. Now guys, when I hot glue, my nozzle is always touching my fabric. I use my nozzle to spread it. So don't lift it up half an inch over your project and try to put a line of glue. Touch your nozzle to your project. And as you squeeze the trigger and you pull it, you are smoothing and laying down that bead so it's not as thick. Same thing. Go around all the little nooks, all the little areas. Okay. Now, because I'm a perfectionist, you don't have to do this. I go around and I lift it up. And anywhere that I feel like it needs just a tiny bit more glue, I add it. And it's just from years of doing this, I've conditioned myself. I just want to make sure the entire back is sealed. And I do right here. I don't want to leave anything undone, you know. And it's just from doing this for so long. So now you have this chicken that has this big piece of fabric back there. And this is, I mean, it doesn't get any easier than this. It just trim it off. Go around everything, kind of go slowly. Get a good trim. What is going on? I don't know. I swear, can't get on a video without somebody calling, right? Okay. And just make sure you pull your little wings and your little feet and things forward and trim around them. You can always go back and trim it and make it perfect, but get the first big piece of fabric off. Then you can go back and see what it looks like. And don't be afraid to cut a little extra fabric, guys. Fabric is not expensive, so it's okay to waste some. And now I just, anywhere that I feel like I just need to cut a little tiny bit more, but actually it's pretty good. So this is what the back looks like. It's totally sealed, except for the pipe cleaners coming through. So now, all you gotta do is decorate. Now you just put whatever you're gonna put. If you plan to put anything on her, I'm gonna glue these little styrofoam eggs to her. So let's see, lay them out first. It's always better if you lay them out first. That's that. You know, just however you want to do it. Like, there's this part, there's no rules to. This is the part where you can turn this attachment into your own creation and not a copy of something. You know what I mean? Like, this is where you can, I get it if you make your first one and you're like, you want to kind of go by the pattern, but after you've made one, try something different with the next ones. Put your own little spin on it. Do your own thing. Just if you want to. I mean, these little eggs, I mean, there's no thought process put into these eggs. I mean, it's just, you know, there's no big revelation that I had to put these little eggs on here. It was just something I already had. I didn't have to go out and buy anything. It was inexpensive, and there. And then I just hold them. Give them a good, little beak wants to go upwards. I glued it too much at the top and not enough at the bottom. Okay, guys, she's done. She is done. there's a lot, you know. Method wise, you could do this with just about any shape you want. You could cut this foam board into any shape you want, cover it with fabric, and do something like this. If you want to do Valentine's Day hearts, make a heart. You gotta know how to make a heart. Cover it with fabric the same way we did with this, and then embellish it however the heck you want. So that is it. I hope you learned a little bit from this. I hope you got some information that you can use. And I hope you won't be too afraid to join my subscription group, because we do things like this as well as sew. And who knows, maybe one day you'd even try sewing something. I mean, never say never, right? Because I feel like it's one of those talents, one of those things that is something that people have forgotten, you know. And knowing how to sew something and knowing how to just to thread sewing machine and do all, it's just a nice talent to have, you know. You could be the one friend who knows how to sew. And if you buy one of those big sewing machines that actually embroiders as well, I mean, you can embroider things. I mean, you can embroider eyes on here. You could, I mean, you open up your possibilities of your attachments and stuff. So never say never. Give everything a try. You don't have to have $1,000 sewing machine. The $50 one from Walmart, Target, online, whatever, it'll work. If you can make a $50 sewing machine work, then you can make any sewing machine work. I started this business on a $50 sewing machine from Walmart. So don't ever think that you can't do it. And I fought with that stupid thing over and over, and I eventually upgraded. And then I fought with that one, and then I really upgraded. Like I went to like a $300 machine, which was a lot of money for me back then. And then last year, or maybe it's been 2 years now, I finally decided it was time to take our business up a notch, and we started buying the straight stitch machines, which are $1,000 a piece. But let me tell you, worth every penny if this is what you do for a living. So, you know, I'm not complaining at all about the money. They save me time, energy, and frustration. So they're worth it, right? But if you want to do something like this and you want to make attachments, you're limiting yourself if you don't at least try the sewing option, because you can do a lot more with it if you sew. Okay, so I hope you guys will check out the WAAM group. Maybe, I don't know, maybe just give it a month or two, get some patterns, see how you do with it. It's not for everybody. It's not. I understand. Some people are just they'd rather just buy it already made. But like I said, you can make these little things for under $5 a piece if you have all the supplies and stuff, you know. And if you have some of these left over from last Easter, you paid 80% off or whatever, it costs you pennies, right? Fabric doesn't cost much, especially if you get it on sale and just buy little pieces of it. Little pieces of felt are 25 cents. I mean, you really don't have to put a lot into this if you don't want to. But then you can start slowly building up your utility fabric library, which is your felts and your fleeces, and slowly get all the little quarter yard, half yard pieces of all the different colors, and then you can use all of it. And there's sometimes I can make an entire attachment and it costs me less than $1. So there are ways of saving money in doing this, and it's a lot of fun. And those are the things I'm teaching in WAAM. And we touch on business, we touch on a little bit of coaching, just a little bit of everything. I mean, my business is my life. So if you have my attention in my group, and there's only about 50 people in there, so everybody has my full attention, I can really dive in and help people with businesses along the way and help answer questions. And, you know, I don't consider myself a business coach, but I've been running a very successful business for the past 5 years. So I feel like I kind of know what I'm doing. You know, I'm not going to teach you how to do Etsy. There are people out there that are professional that can teach you Etsy. I'm not going to teach you how to do MailChimp or MailerLite or there's people out there that can teach you programs. That's not me. I'm not a Zoom person. I mean, I don't have all of that in my wheelhouse. Those aren't tools that I use. But as far as simply paperwork, accounting, taxes, what you need to start, those are the kind of things that I can help you with. Just to get you started. And then as you grow, you start incorporating the, you know, more complicated things. But you got to get your feet wet first. You got to get started first, and making your own little attachments like this, whether you're going to put them in wreaths and sell them or just sell the attachments by themselves, Either way, it doesn't matter. You can put your own price on this. I'm not telling you what I would sell it for. You could put this on Etsy today and put your own price on it, what you feel is worth, and then see what kind of a following you get. You can put it in a wreath. When you put a handmade attachment in a wreath, it almost doubles the value, you know? A $45 wreath that you have all Dollar Tree stuff on, put something you make inside of it, suddenly you have an $85 wreath because it's handmade. Totally changes the game on it, guys. 100% changes the game. That's why so many of my customers over the past 5 years are so successful, especially my customers I had in the very first year. There were 500 people in my group. There was no other place for them to get unique attachments. Everywhere else was Hobby Lobby, you know, all the same stuff everywhere. So they were my original 500 customers. I can count at least 100 of them that are very successful, making over 6 figures, probably some making over $1 million a year selling wreaths. They aren't buying my attachments anymore because they moved on beyond me, but that's okay because they used me as a stepping stone to make their business grow. And now they have become to where they can buy from these amazing, you know, $1 million designers, and that's where their business needs to be, you know, and I'm okay with that. That's fine. But I'm very proud of the people who started out with me and where they are today. And I think it's a big test. I can't think of anybody in the wreathing community that didn't start out with me at some point buying attachments that they couldn't get anywhere else and growing their business. And I'm a middle stepping stone before they get to that big, you know, stepping stone up there. So it just makes me proud to know that I've had a little bit of influence on some people and have helped some people just get over the hurdle of selling on Etsy and that sort of thing. And, you know, there's a lot of wreath makers out there who've never heard of me, and that's fine too. That's fantastic. I mean, I'm always open to welcome new people in. So please, you know, tell your friends, share. This pattern is going to be $5 in my shop once these videos are posted. And the reason for that is I feel like I've given it away to free for all of my inner group and to all of you guys in my private group. Once you guys start selling these, it becomes more public and people start going there, people who maybe don't know me, and they start going and looking for these patterns. I just don't want it to be free to the open general public. You know, I've kind of kept it just in our private group and into the WAAM group. And when it gets out into public, into Etsy land, I'm going to put a $5 charge on it. It covers all the stuff that I've done. And, you know, that's how you grow your business. I may only sell 5 or 10 of them at $5 a piece, but that's money I wouldn't have had, you know, and it's all about making money and growing your business, right? And if I'm going to start doing videos and DIYs, that's the direction I want to go. And I want to be able to post videos and earn money off of them. And that's a very real goal that I have set for myself. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Please, if you have any questions, put it in the comments of this video. I'm going to post it. I'll check on the comments, you know, as it's on there and try to answer people as I go. If you have any questions that you don't want to put in the comments, you are more than welcome to private message me. If we are not friends on Facebook, you can friend me. That way you'll see my comments. And if you're not in the private group, not the paid group, not the subscription group and WAAM, but if you're not in the Dereka's Designs private group, please ask to join, because 99% of what I do, I put it in there first, and then I open it up to the general public who's not a member. So please join my group. Please share. You won't be able to share this video, but share the projects. And if anybody's asked where you got that, and say, hey, I made this and this is the person who taught me. That just helps me. And it just makes me feel good to know that people like it well enough that they would share it. I think that's really sweet. So you guys have a fantastic day, and I will talk to you later. And Jasper says bye if you heard him.